Today's video, we're going to talk about Google Shopping title optimization best practices. Optimize your product titles on your shopping campaigns and coming from your product feed from Google Merchant Center for way more clicks and sales than you're going to be able to get with your shopping campaigns or PMAX if you're using that campaign type to run a shopping ad placement for your business, then you're going to be able to get without optimizing your product titles. The number two thing that, at least for what you could typically control on your shopping campaigns, it's going to get your results is the titles, which is why you want to optimize your titles. Optimizing your titles gives you such a drastic increase in your results. We're talking about two to three times as much profit from your shopping ads than if you don't optimize them, specifically because your competition isn't going to think to optimize them. Either they haven't thought about it or they're too lazy to do it, which naturally anything your competition is not willing to do and that helps out your users is automatically obviously going to make you more money. And then the question is just how much. In this particular instance, it's huge because it's the second biggest factor you can control that affects your results on Google Shopping. The number one would be the product image itself, which I've talked about. And if you're interested in getting a little bit more out of shopping, you can watch my videos about shopping product image optimization, where you can like change the background. If you're using a white background, try an active background where you have like a picnic table in the background that the product's sitting on or whatever there. Pricing is the actual second biggest factor on a shopping ad, mainly because you can see it clearly before, or you pay, that's the second biggest thing you pay attention to, but most of you guys can't change the product price. You can a little bit, certainly should consider thinking about it, raising the product price a little bit and then having a discount through the Google Merchant Center promotion so it looks like it's on sale, or reducing it just a tad under what the other person that's at the same price as you in a certain search result would be at, which would affect your results greatly. But for all practical purposes, most people don't want to change their product pricing. So this is your second best option. And there's really no drawback to it. Unlike changing your pricing and get lesser margins potentially, which if sales go up, yeah, you're offsetting that. There is no drawback to optimizing your product titles. And it's easier than optimizing your product images, given if you find out instead of a white background with your product image, you put it on a picnic table, that product, and you have 5,000 products, that's going to be a hell of a lot of work and time and money to actually execute on that. Whereas optimizing your product titles, that can be done once you figure out what the formula is that works, that you test on your own, where we've optimized product titles in the past, like what kind of results we've been getting from that or with that. And then with that, what your basic options are to replicate the kind of results that we're getting. Because in a nutshell, there's two reasons why and how you modify your product titles in order to get a jump in results and the amount of profit you're making from your shopping ads. And in a nutshell, there's two reasons why and how you modify your product titles in order to get a jump in results, i.e. amount of profit you're making from your shopping ads. And that is you optimize by lacing keywords in the title, or you just write a better title. It's going to get it's more clickable, so to say, so through better copywriting. And technically both of them are, you should be employing if you can on your product titles. So it's just, all in all, and then with that, it either gets your ads to show up more, which gets you more clicks, which then therefore gets you more sales, or it gets a higher click-through rate on the impressions that you're already getting, which gets you more sales. Because naturally from the search results that you have that your shopping ad shows up on that's profitable, if you could just get more clicks, that's one way to make money. Or if you can get shown in more auctions and help the algorithm realize more auctions or more places you should show up that are profitable, you can make more money that way. With 70% of the money that you'll make in most e-commerce markets being the shopping ads, which by the way, the easiest way to run shopping ads and make the most money is through PMAX, feed-only specific campaigns. Watch my video about that on my channel. You can search for that on my channel homepage if you want to check that out and don't know what that is yet. And then with that, in addition to product image testing, which is very time-consuming, you add this title testing technique to what you're doing, and you're going to make a lot more money from what you're doing. And take that 70% of the potential sales you can get in your market and then run with it. Search ads are the other 30% of what you can get on at least Google.com. You should still run them. They're still profitable. But it's actually easier to make more money than what you're making now than by optimizing your product titles on your shopping and like I mentioned, PMAX campaigns, feed-only PMAX campaigns, than it is to spend the time to set up the search campaigns in terms of hour per hour of work and the return per hour spent in effort. So with that said, though, without further ado, using a supplemental product feed in Google Merchant Center, you can actually have your Google Shopping ad titles literally anything that you want it to say. So if you're selling a bed in a box where, they can get like a Casper mattress, purple mattress where they, physically shove a foam mattress in a box and ship it out to you. If you want to say that is Casper mattress on your website, but then you want on your shopping campaign to say foam mattress for sale, you can do that. There's really nothing, there's no rules, in other words, that Google has necessarily that says you have to make the product title match what the product is. You could say this is a polished turd on a stick, and they're not going to care. Of course you can't use profanity, but just thought I would make you guys laugh a little bit there. But legitimately speaking, you can have it be whatever you want, okay? And that's done through a supplemental product feed. So going back to what I said before, the reason why this is so profitable is because most people, they don't even know they can do this. They think that by default, what's shown on their product page title is what they have to have on their shopping ad title. And it's not the case at all. The easiest way to do that, the cheapest way to do that, is through a supplemental product feed. There's other software you can use to do the same thing, but the supplemental product feed makes it literally in 5 minutes, you can have a alternate product title for a certain item. You just upload a spreadsheet to Google Merchant Center in the supplemental feed section saying, for this product, I want this title, and then bang. Within 24 hours, the system will update, and your product title is going to show up different for that particular item. And then, assuming you got the right title, you now unlocked considerable more profits for that item. And like I said, what you want to do, the smart way to do things, given that Google's so touchy and all ads that are running on Google Ads through the Google Ad system are predicated on machine learning and AI, which is very sensitive to changes that you make. You test one item and try to get the formula down, and then test a few more items, and then only when you're 100% confident, the strategy you have of adding the word cheap at the beginning of each one of your product titles, or saying very powerful, or whatever you're doing, that you don't go ahead and change a bunch of shit, suffer the volatility in your results, given that you're going to make the system evaluate everything that you have as new again, and to see if it will perform or not, that you get through that, it's worth it for you at the end of the day. Making changes sucks because it does affect your results, and the bigger change you make, the bigger the negative downward trend in your short-term results you're going to get. But it's always worth it at the end of the day if you know it's a net positive on the other side. So you always want to make as small of a gamble as you can to figure out what works, and then go ahead and make the big change if you can after you know it'll pay. So the reality is it's super rare, though, that your product titles on your product pages are the best ones to run on your shopping ads. 99.9% of the time, effectively, the title that you have on your product pages right now on your website are not going to be the most profitable titles on your shopping ads, just because, and that should make logical sense, right? How could it possibly be whatever users want to see on your product page is what they want to see on a shopping ad? On a shopping ad, there's 7 other ads next to you, and the people are trying to decide what looks interesting to click on. In a lot of cases, they have no familiarity of what you have and what you do. So you need to be a bit more descriptive in that case a lot of times, just to get your ad click through so that they know what they're looking at, which is a big part of it, by the way, which is what I'm going to talk about in a second. Versus when they get to your page and then they have a lot more information there, then you could have that title say your brand name on it and get away with it, because they don't need to make a snap decision as to what you have on that ad per se, which is really what the reality is. All this is, you have like literally a split second for somebody that sees your ad to decide whether they're going to click on it or not. And if you have they'll read the first 3 or 4 or 5 words typically, and if you don't have something super concise and clear there, they're not going to click through. Whereas when they get to the product page, they're more invested in figuring out what your product does and what the benefits are. So you don't have to be so concise. Yes, it's good to be concise still, but in a lot of cases, if you look too spammy on your product page, it will kill the trust of the user. Whereas saying super cheap 12 PSI turbo kit on your ad might get a high click-through because it really spells out what it is. If you have that on your product page, it may just look, like you're not a branded item anymore, because branded websites don't do that kind of crap. So then therefore, you're not going to get the most results that way. And so what you want is you want to optimize for each user's experience based upon what typically works the best for users in both spots. Shopping ad, and then also on the product page separately. So with that said, there's 3 basic ways to optimize your titles on your ads. That is, purely go for a CTR play. As I mentioned before, there's 2 ways to make more money from your shopping ads optimizing your product titles. You can either try to get more clicks on the same impressions you're having now, that is a higher click-through rate, or you could get more impressions for the items that you have to market, so you have more at-bats, so to say. So, and if you're going to go for more click-through rate, then you get that through writing better copy. Make what you're saying seem more enticing. Saying that it's the top product, best voted product, which is stuff you could legitimately do. Like I said, there's no rules necessarily against this per se. So if you want to say number 1 voted sunscreen oil, you could do that on your product title and your shopping ad. So a lot of people don't think like that. That's a true big brain outside the box strategy that people aren't going to necessarily think about. If you see that, obviously you're going to be like, wow, number 1, wonder why it's number 1. Click, and then now you have a higher click-through rate. Now you're going to be able to make more money. So you could go that angle with things, or to make more money optimizing your product titles, you could optimize purely for more volume of impressions, like I just mentioned a bit ago, where you try to get your ad shown more, because the big thing that I see mostly with clients at our firm, where people initially come to me and ask for an assessment on what they're doing, I'll see that they're making already good money from their shopping ads, and they want to know how do they get more clicks. Well, the best way to do that is to optimize your titles, specifically by adding more keywords to them. And the best way to do that is to simply interweave synonyms and break out your thesaurus so that you can add synonym words to your product title, because the machine learning algorithm that decides what your ads, which places and for what people on Google search your shopping ads should show up for, they're going to scan your product page and try to figure out what your item is about. But the algorithm's only so smart. So if you find out, like for instance, really good example of this is when we sold home interior items, like luxury knick-knack type things that you put on tables and stuff. We would have an item that sells well, and the item would be like a shade of brown. And so whereas the algorithm can see the Google system algorithm that tries to decide where that product should show up for in the Google search results, if somebody types in brown wallboard, it will actually show up in Google search for someone typing that in. The reality is there's a lot of shades of brown, and that product wasn't necessarily exactly brown. It's, brown. I forgot, like what the shades of brown it is. I just remember how we basically did this with the colors. There's whatever specific shade of brown it is, or various shades of brown that, like for instance, there's blue and then there's turquoise, right? So what we would do in that case is we would take the product title, instead of ultimately having the title say blue wallboard, whatever, it would say blue wallboard, and then we would put a vertical bar and then the word turquoise and then the word aqua after it. This is similar to the strategy that people use like on Craigslist or eBay, where they try to get the listing to show up more times by adding keywords down at the bottom of the product description. And that's all you're really doing here. And so to basically educate and tell the system that Google has what you should show up for in addition. So whereas the Google system should realize that anybody searching for aqua should be shown our product because it's pretty close to the color aqua. It's not the color aqua, but if you showed it to the person that's looking for aqua, a good percentage would see it and click through. Not everybody, but a good enough percentage where it should show up for the person searching for aqua wallboard specifically from now on. So that's a perfect example of how keyword addition to your product title, or interweaving keywords that are synonyms or close variants to the keywords that are already on your product page, can get you more impressions where it's profitable to get impressions, because Naturally, and there's a limit obviously to this, Google, all their system carries at the end of the day, what ads are going to get high click-through rates? Because high click-through rates to them mean users are getting what they want and getting a good experience, so they'll want to click on ads in the future on Google and make Google searches in the future. So whatever synonym and whatever word that you know that product should show up for in addition, that would get metrics, that is click-through rates and conversion rates similar to what you have now, Google is going to want to show up for that. So it's your job in this case as a human helper in the system, if you will, to seed and give Google those additional keywords, synonyms, whatnot, so that you start showing up. It knows where to keep showing you up and testing you out. It'll start showing you up in those other places. If the click-through rate backs out and the conversion rate backs out, because Google doesn't want just click bait where you get good click-through, but nobody buys, because they're optimizing for both, because both of those things indicate whether the user got a good experience out of your ad. Therefore, want to click on ads in the future. So you add those keywords, bang, it starts making you show up in a bunch of auctions, assuming in the right spots. Now you have more spots that you're now forever going to show up on. That's going to now bring in a trickle of more purchases to your business on an ongoing basis from now on. So whereas most people that you're competing against is just going to have Google make whatever conclusion they can about your products, showing up where it thinks it should show up on Google, you're actually going to go ahead and come up with the keyword research manually, add that to your product title, and now you're going to be the one getting 3 times as many sales as anybody else, because the algorithm learns and knows how to run your ads in a better way, more accurate way, than what they're going to know by default otherwise, or from what they know about your competition, if you will. Or just in general, more accurately, what customers actually are looking for your exact items. So whereas it is a lot of work, you can do 1 or 2 or 3 at a time, and then use the money that you're making in addition from those 3 to do 3 more, and then you ultimately just have a data entry person do that for you. And you test out, the formula. In the case with the interior product company, like the knickknacks seller that I was talking to you about, once we found adding the color variants to the title works, now we can do that for the other 5,000 items. That's what you should ultimately be planning for your business. The third way to optimize your product titles for more results is to do a combination of 1 and 2. So there's really only 2 ways, but the formula that I found works the best is to optimize that product title for good click-through, and then append to the end of the title some additional keywords, 3 to 5 keywords at the end. With the wallboard, wallboard is like fancy, it's not wallpaper, but physical material you add to the wall to make it look kind of cool. Where we sold that product, I'll stick to that example here as my first example here, but in that particular case, I mentioned adding the color variants to the title gets us to show up in more appropriate places where that users will want to click through and buy at a higher rate. So therefore, we could get permanent showing there if we just add that to our product title for Google to start testing it. We want to do that, but we also, on the very first part of the title, want to optimize so that we have high click-through. Adding the word luxury at the start of that particular product name adds click-through, because people that are buying, and this was they were selling high-end products, people that want to buy high-end products know what the word luxury is. So by looking at that product physically, you don't necessarily know it's luxury. You can kind of tell by the price, of course. But in addition to that, having that word luxury at the start of the product title better communicates before the user has to click, because you may think, well, what difference does it make? The user can click and find out all this information. The reality is it's a risk for the user to click through to find out what it is, because it's a risk of waste of time. So the more you can communicate up front before they have to click on the ad, the more profit you're going to make from these ads, the more click-through, and the more sales you're going to ultimately make. So how can you rewrite that title to be more appealing? One way might be just to add a better descriptive word of what it is. Big, cheap, luxury, low cost, whatever, and that could be one way to do it. Or maybe you find there's a universal metric or stat, if you will, that people are looking for when you sell a particular product. If you sell a auto part, something that makes your car faster, people they all know about the word horsepower. So you can add plus 30 horsepower at the start of your product title. And since everybody kind of is looking for that end result, they don't buy drills or drill bits. People buy holes in the wall, as the analogy goes. So they buy an auto part to get the end result. You mentioning what the end result is in the product title gets them to click through. And that's another major way to get the click-through rate up on your ad so you can start making more money that way. And so you can add a universal description to the first part of your product title to make it work better, such as you can add the word, like we had with a bulk candy seller. We literally added the word bulk to the start of each product title, tested that out, knew that it got roughly 50% more click-through rate on our products where we did that, and then applied it to all of our other products, so that, that Starbucks or Starburst product, Starburst candy on the site that we were trying to sell, it's a bulk candy seller. Adding the word bulk to before the word Starbucks, keeps saying Starbucks. Starburst better communicated what it is that we do on our site, which is purely bulk candy. So we want to flag down the person who is looking for bulk candy, that is like a convenience store owner or whatever. And we got a lot more results that way. Like I mentioned before, you can add the word, like we did with the product seller that does the luxury wallboard, luxury other interior products. Adding the word luxury helped increase the click-through rate. So maybe there, it could be number one or number one voted. There's different ideas. It's just one of many ideas you could do there. With that said, to optimize your product title to get higher click-through rate, you could also, like I mentioned before, add a universal benefit or spec to the first part of your ad. In the auto parts field, it was adding like plus 30 horsepower, or we'd add like 30 PSI, which is a pressure rating. So if you were selling a supercharger for a car, adding 30 PSI indicated how powerful that supercharger was. So before even having to click through, going back to the principle that I said, and the basis of all this, why this works, we were able to communicate the value of our product before they had to click on our ad. Therefore, it's less risk to click through that ad. Therefore, we're going to have higher click-through rate and then higher click-through on search results, and certain people that are already profitable to us makes us more money. And so that's how we were able to make money there. There's other times we've made money, considerably more money, where we added the word cheap. Okay? Going back to the bulk candy seller, we actually found out in certain instances, instead of the word bulk, cheap before that product title actually worked better. I put cheap in the universal benefit category because it's more of a benefit than as a better describer of what we have. So adding the word cheap or low cost can actually increase your click-through rate by a considerable margin. So, and with that said, you shouldn't just assume necessarily, as I alluded to before, that you test out whatever you're going to do on one or two items, and if it works, do it on all the other items, because rarely will that formula work for every item that you sell universally. Sometimes it will, but what you can do is you can find something that works, try to apply it to the rest of your products, assume that it'll work for all your other products, but always check to make sure your click-through rate or your impressions actually, and therefore sales, actually went up on an each item basis. And for the ones that it didn't, remove whatever you tried to do to optimize your product title on those. And then on those that it didn't work, try something else. And go back to where you found what works on the items where you were able to update the product title and the results did go up. Test the next thing. What else can we do to beat what we've already figured out works better than what was default on our product title, on our product pages, on our website itself? And then just keep going. And naturally, when I'm doing split testing of ads in terms of copywriting, or in this case, product titles, I'm going to keep testing the product title until I have at least 3 times in a row where I cannot beat the current result. Yes, I might be able to try 10 more times and find something that I can beat the results with, but there's a cost of running a test. Like I mentioned, the algorithm doesn't like change, and so I'll settle for 80% of the increase in results I can get by running a few tests and then just calling it good. You can decide what you want to do there for yourself. Obviously, there's more long-term potential running ongoing tests, but then obviously short-term, you're going to take a hit in your results every single time that you run a test. just because things are changing and the algorithm hates change. So anyway, in the particular instance with the wallboard company, we more than doubled the click-through rate, adding the colors to the product titles at the end of the keyword, just to give you an idea of what scope and size of the results you can get with this strategy. In the bulk candy seller, I mentioned we had about a 50% lift in click-through rates when we added the word bulk and or cheap. Some items, the word cheap did actually work better. And in the auto part space, specifically where we started adding information about the horsepower lift that the item would give, and or like the pressure rating or a similar amount, we were between 2 and 3 times as much click-through rate and impressions, because it was an increase in both, actually. And which, by the way, if you get an increase in click-through rate, you're going to get more impressions along with that. So we got a big lift in the click-through rate, and then Google started showing our ads, in that case, a lot more, which gave us a really, really nice lift in our profitability. So at the end of the day, we were making 2 to 3 times as much money from our shopping ads, figuring out that's just that small thing, that is, the very first product part of that product should say what the end benefit is, plus 30 HP, plus 30 PSI, that kind of thing. And by the way, in your situation, if you were selling auto parts, that's the formula that works universally there. So that's a freebie if you're doing that. But in some cases, just to give you an example, if you find that adding 30 HP works great before the product title, you may consider having the product title and then 30 HP at the end of the product title. And in some cases, that's going to work better. So it doesn't always have to be before the product title, but testing words before the product title generally works the best, because the user's always going to notice that right away. It's the first thing you read. Naturally, it's going to be the highest thing they're going to notice. So if something will lift the click-through rate, you want it at the beginning of the title, because the most people are going to read that. And that should make logical sense. And the reason why you add the keywords at the end of the product title is because nobody reads those anyway. So why not use that extra real estate at the end of the product title to get more impressions by helping the algorithm understand where that ad for that product should actually show up at. So as you can see, you can get maybe a 50% bump optimizing your product titles, or you can get a 3x bump depending on what you're doing and how ultimately how good and how clever you are at doing this. But 50% bump is obviously amazing, but if you keep going with your testing, you may find something else that gives you another 50% bump, and you can just keep going and you can stack your gains obviously as well. Anyway, with that said, I'll wrap it up with that. Hopefully that made a lot of sense. If you have any questions, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person that leaves me a comment or question on this channel, usually within 24 hours. You can ask me any ad-related question that you would like. I'm here to be able to answer you guys' questions as best as I can, using my 15 years of ad experience in order to do so. I do that just as a thank you for watching the channel. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you should subscribe, as I'm giving you guys the best information you're going to find on the web about how to actually really make money with ads. Since this is all I do as my day job, I just do ad strategy for clients. I manage dozens of ad accounts on all the various ad platforms out there. The stuff that works and the stuff that doesn't work, I'm telling you giving it to you here on a silver platter, so you know how to actually really make money. All the rest of the people talking about this stuff on the internet isn't doing ad strategy 40 hours a week. Therefore, the information is just secondhand or just not as good. So if you're serious about making money with ads, this is the channel you want to subscribe to, and you want to subscribe to it right now. Do not delay any further. Furthermore, by the way, I have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog where you can find other information for myself. And on my blog, it's more of a step-by-step fashion where you can see screenshots and how-tos and so on and so forth. So whereas I talk on a more high level on this channel, you can find detailed information there. And if you like the channel, you're going to love my blog even more. It's actually an even better resource. So you should check that out as well. As mentioned, I run an ad agency. This is all I do for clients here. With that said, we are the only agency out there that does any kind of guarantee. With that, if we cannot get our clients more profits from their ads before we take a fee, we will not take a fee at all. And basically what you're paying our agency is just a chunk of the additional profits we're going to make for your brand. And so, and with that, there's no catch other than we got to know we can get great results with your stuff up front, and therefore we don't take just any client on. But if you want to see if we can work together in that kind of capacity, reach out to me at guaranteeppc.com. I'd be more than happy to have a discussion about what you're doing and see if there's a possibility of working together. As a side, if you don't like to work with ad agencies like mine that I have here, I understand. However, if we've worked in your niche area before, you should use all the templates that we developed for your niche market already, because you're going to save tons of time and money just using what we found out works in your market already in a different geographic area. You can have the ads, landing pages, campaign templates, all of it that generate this, really good results, of which we can tell you the results you generate with it before you ever purchased it from us, and literally have copy and paste results like that into your own ad accounts. I've worked in over 100 different niche markets in the last 10 years here, of which, so that, there's a really good chance we've already figured it all out, so to say, for your market. If you're interested in that, you can reach out to me at guaranteeppc.com. And with that said, we've got people that start other businesses starting with these templates, by the way. The easiest way to start an e-commerce business is to start with a template that works to sell an exact item that you can easily source from China and sell it in a different geographic market that our client is in, that is in a different country, or like a local service business, just taking what works in city A and use it in city B. So there's no conflict of interest because of that. It's only just upside for you, and it's all fair game. Anyway, if you're interested in that, you can also reach out to me at my firm. I'll wrap it up with that, though. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in my next video where we have another great strategy for you then. See you later.